We are talking What If Episode 7. Come on inside.
What's up, everybody? We're the Jersey Comic Crew. Today we're doing a review reaction breakdown of Marvel's latest episode, Episode 7, What If Thor Were an Only Child. Now, guys, the what if is steeped in changing our characters the way we know it. This episode is very similar to the previous one we saw with Doctor Strange, not the direct previous one, right? They take a core element of a character and they change it to see what kind of world they would grow up in. And Doctor Strange, instead of losing his hands, he lost the love of his life. He became evil and obsessed, right? Thor, a core character trait of him is growing up with Loki, his brother. In this world, he was an only child, which resulted in him becoming a spoiled brat prince, if you were. Overall, my quick thoughts before we get into the episode. It was a funny episode. It wasn't great by any means for me. I didn't really like it. I thought it was a fun comic kind of thing. I think this would have been better as being like one of the first episodes to kind of like introduce us into the what if world. Like, oh, haha, Thor and Loki, like, it's weird, they just party animals, and then we have to deal with their repercussions of a giant party. For being episode 7, when we've got some crazy episodes, especially like Marvel Zombies, What If T'Challa was Star-Lord, like some of these big great episodes, felt a little weird place-wise, but it still wasn't a bad episode. Chris, my question to you, Thor being a party animal, how did you like that? What did you think of the episode?
Yeah, I agree with you a lot. I thought it was
good. I'm
very...
genius.
yes, absolutely. Yes, yeah. All your thoughts. Yeah, I was in the same boat. I was actually watching it going, oh, this is funny. I wonder how Rob's gonna react to this, because I know you like funny, and a lot of times, more so in movies, right? Like funny goes a long way for you. But I was like, I don't know if there's much here as far as like meat and potatoes style behind the funny jokes. Yeah. And you're right. It was very flat. It was very much more of a, it's just a fun time, which is not right. When you're a comic fan, you're used to reading comic books. Your heroes are in peril. Your heroes are going through hell. Like, that's what moves the story. That's what's interesting, right? How do they get out of these awful situations? Not so much of like, hey, it's the high school house party before his mom gets home from dinner kind of thing.
Yeah, it's like they filler episode before the shit goes down, which you don't really get to see in comic books. In anime and maybe animated TV shows and movies, you kind of get that reprieve, so you get to know the character. But then, like, you're like, all right, let's see the juicy bits, which you don't really get any juicy bits here.
Yeah, and it's kind of like this party, right? Like, Thor lands in Vegas instead of landing in, like, the middle of the desert. And, like, throws this party. Jane Foster's still kind of, like, tracking him, which I thought keeping Jane the constant was a good thing.
Yeah.
To kind of have someone with their head on straight through this whole thing. But, yeah, it was a funny situation, right? He's in Vegas. He invites the whole 9 realms. We see a bunch of goofy characters like Howard the Duck. Seth Green doing the voice comes back. He invites all the different realms, so we get like Loki, Frost Giant, and all this other stuff.
Grandmaster was there.
The Grandmaster was there. So it was a cool like party atmosphere. But again, like going forward, it wasn't just like, oh man, I'm so interested in this. You know what I mean?
So the main plot and the conflict of this episode kind of arises when the party goes array, if you will, and Korg, which we've seen in Thor Ragnarok, comes and just pretty much trucks Nick Fury, tackles him, and just knocks him away. Results in Maria Hill becoming the new director of S.H.I.E.L.D. And she calls and summons Captain Marvel to kind of put a stop to the party. And what was cool to see Captain Marvel and Thor fight, because I think that's something that fans want to see. Like, I want to see Captain Marvel fight Thor. I want to see how strong it is. And it was cool, like a little anime battle style, which, I guess they did the best they could trying to emulate the just animated fighting, which I think that studio needs to do a little bit more work on. But even after all of that, like, I wasn't impressed. I was like, oh, cool, they're fighting. And then afterwards, they're like, all right, I guess we got to call his mom to, like, kind of deal with stuff. Like, it was weird, but it was cool to see Captain Marvel and Thor fight.
Yeah, I think that was kind of the whole point, right? It was just Captain Marvel and Thor fighting in a situation where we haven't seen that before.
Yeah.
But I kept kind of going like, all right, like, where are the actual Avengers on Earth, though? You know what I mean? Like I get, like, Nick Fury gets knocked out and Maria Hill takes over and she's kind of trying to figure this all out. And, here's the fail-safe, I guess, that Fury gave the beeper to call Captain Marvel. And I get the power sets. And I get, in the regular MCU, Avengers 1, we saw Thor fight Hulk and vice versa. But you kind of wonder, like, all right, is Tony Stark on this planet? Like, if this does take place in Thor 1, it's before the Avengers, but you still have Tony Stark, you still have Captain America.
Yeah.
Bruce Banner's still somewhere. It was odd to me that like the first thing was let's call Captain Marvel instead of like, hey, Tony Stark, who's already Iron Man, come over here and deal with this, who probably at this point would have been partying somewhere with Thor anyway. If you think about it.
I mean, we saw Drax party. We saw a lot of these other heroes. Nebula was
Drax
there.
throw up.
I would have loved to see Iron Man partying, because like at this point it's still early. He still like has to deal with his alcoholism in the MCU, right? So that would have been cool to see. The only justifiable reasoning that I think I could give for why they didn't call the Avengers is because like S.H.I.E.L.D. themes like it's a threat, but it's like more of a nuisance, less than like a world exploding thing, and they didn't call the Avengers and didn't even set that up. And maybe Nick Fury didn't have time to do the whole Avengers initiative, so they're just random people at this point. And if they're just random people at this point, they have, this history, this rapport with Captain Marvel, saying if anything goes down, like bring her in, and they see it's a god essentially comes down to this world. It makes sense that that's their go-to if the Avengers aren't put together, and especially if they view this threat as like a nuisance, a nuisance that can become chaotic and destroy the world, versus like with evil intent, if you will. But the episode, like all the other What If episodes, at the end leaves us hanging, leaves us wanting for more within this universe. Thor meets Jane Foster, asks her out for a date, cute romance kind of thing there, which I enjoyed, obviously. But it was really when Thor was walking away, and we see essentially like Heimdall's light blast down, and we see ultimate perfect Ultron there with all the Infinity Gems in there, with his Ultron robot, something comic fans have desperately wanted to see in the MCU, especially when you have Ultron there. So this brings up the question, what's going to happen? Ultron's here. Like, are they going to have to form the Avengers now because Thor's there with Captain Marvel? I want to see that beat down. That's going to be really fun. Like, that's the story I wanted to see. Very similar to what we had last week, where like the ending is the story that you want to see. And like, again, What If does this habit of like, oh, here's the cool What If. Now here's the really big cliffhanger that you want to see more of what happens next.
What was interesting to me, Rob, is you kind of forget, Age of Ultron's kind of the ugly duckling per se of the Avengers movies, and you kind of forget that the original intent of Ultron was to create Vision to be his perfect self. Yeah. So I thought it was cool when the ending is kind of the scene of what we really want the whole time. And I did love to see kind of perfect Ultron, right? I kind of forget that Age of Ultron, that was his goal. Vision was supposed to be his perfect form, and to kind of see that head come up and see Vision on the inside, I thought was totally cool. And
that
was
like, cool.
Who knows? Maybe that was like old concept art from Age of Ultron, like that they were like, if the scene happened in the movie that he got perfect with Vision for a while, that maybe was concept art or possibilities of what he was going to look like, and they reanimated it. So here's an idea. The aspect of the multiverse, which we talked about ad nauseum, with the end of Loki and He Who Remains, we already know we're seeing a bunch of heroes in different multiverses, including in What If and in the movies. Could this also be an avenue for the villains as well, right? Ultron is a character we kind of got in the ugly duckling of the Avengers movies.
Okay.
He was kind of a one and done, but that's a character obviously in the comics that spans decades of storytelling with different Avengers. He's kind of Hank Pym's baby. Could this be an avenue that we see these characters, villains alike as well as heroes, come back in some form through the multiverse?
I definitely agree. I definitely agree that the What If is going to give us the way that we wanted the villains, right? In the main Marvel Cinematic Universe, to kind of have them flourish here, especially villains like in the past of the MCU that kind of got like the ugly duckling treatment, right? Like they got the one and done and that's it. Perfect example, even before this episode, was Killmonger, right? Everybody was thinking Killmonger getting killed off kind of sucked. Like, he's such a great villain. We could have done more with him. And we don't know the real reason. Maybe that's more of a storyline. Maybe that's Michael B. Jordan didn't want to sign up for a commitment to do so anymore. Hearsay, she says, in the real world life of things, right? But like to see him come back, essentially become the Black Panther and do all of his evil deeds is a way we get him back, right? Again, we're seeing that again with Ultron. Ultron is perfect Ultron. Maybe we're going to see him take over the world, maybe fuse with Hank Pym like in the stories. We're going to get to see that. So guys, with only 2 episodes left in Marvel's What If series, we know maybe something has to do with Ultron in the last episode. What do you guys think is going to be in the next episode or even in the season finale? And what did you guys think of Party Thor rocking around the world? Let us know down in the comments below.
And guys, thanks so much for watching. Give us a thumbs up, like, really helps the channel out a lot. If you're new, subscribe and turn those notifications. You don't want to miss any more What If. We got 2 episodes left. You know we're covering them right here. If you missed any videos, go check them out on the channel. They're always up for you guys. And as always, I'm Chris Heller. That's Rob Moran. We're the Jersey Com Crew, and we'll see you next time.